Hi, this is Mike Fry from the We Epping Told You So podcast. Today is May 8th, 2025, and for this edition, we are offering a special audio-only version that totally fits with the theme of We Epping Told You So. It's a reprise of a radio segment I produced nearly 20 years ago on the topic of gay animals for what was then the nationally syndicated Animal Wise radio program, for which I was the executive producer and co-host. It's particularly relevant today because as the MAGAverse continues to malign gay, bi, and trans people with screams that LGBTQ people are unnatural, actual science says otherwise, and we've known that to be true for a very, very, very long time. Take a listen to that segment. We'll check in on the other side.
Evolutionary biologist J.B.S. Haldane once said, "The world is not only queerer than we suppose, it is queerer than we suppose." He was speaking, of course, about the phenomenon of gay animals that, according to the book, Biological Exuberance, have been kept in the closets of the jungles, deserts, and forests by field biologists fearful of publishing their observations on this delicate subject. For his research on the book, author Bruce Bagemeyer, Ph.D., was forced to painstakingly scour the handwritten notes of researchers working in the field. There, he found frequent notes, usually scribbled in the margins and accompanied by slighting references and inappropriate jokes, documenting the gay relationships of hundreds of species of animals, including grizzly bears, gorillas, flamingos, owls, and even several species of salmon. According to Bagemeyer, these gay animal observations have been systematically edited from biological textbooks out of fear that inclusion of such material would inhibit book sales. It's a subject so taboo that even Oscar Wilde didn't write about the love that dare not honk, squeak, or bark its name. However, in recent years, a host of well-known animals of many different species have been coming out of the closet. Some of the best-known gay critters are Roy and Silo, a pair of penguins at the Central Park Zoo. For years, their keepers tried everything to keep them apart and to get them to pair up with girl penguins. They separated them. They tried aversion therapy. Nothing worked. Eventually, the nice folks at the Central Park Zoo just surrendered and let Roy and Silo be who they are. They even let the pair incubate eggs abandoned by opposite-sex penguins. Their first foster child, named Tango, became the star of a children's book called And Tango Makes Three, and people came from all around to see the gay penguins. As news about Roy and Silo spread, keepers at other zoos began sharing their own experiences with gay animals. A veritable fire island full of gay penguins were outed after Roy and Silo. And not just penguins either. Animals of every type, from dragonflies to flamingos and polar bears, have been coming out ever since. At the New York Aquarium, Wendell and Cass had had their keepers suspicious. But you see, as in many animals, boy and girl penguins look identically. Since they don't have external reproductive organs, it's very difficult to tell the boys from the girls. Only when focused breeding programs got started did people even begin concerning themselves with the gender of most of their animals. That's really when zoos all over the world started uncovering a diverse rainbow of animal behavior, and it's teaching us a lot about human behavior too. For eons, the simplistic thinking on this subject has been that a genetic component to sexual orientation was not plausible. The notion was that a gay gene would not survive natural selection because the carriers of the gene would be unlikely to reproduce. But people who put forth that idea failed to account for the complexity of nature and genetics. The term multiple pleiotropic effects is just a fancy way of describing how genes often affect many different characteristics of an organism at the same time. Though a so-called gay gene has yet to be discovered, a recent study in humans links gayness in males to a gene that controls fertility in females. Females who have the fertility gene reproduce a higher percentage of gay male children. Current thinking is that in social tribal species, If an animal is going to produce a lot of offspring, there is a payoff down the road if some of those offspring are not going to reproduce themselves, and they're therefore available to help raise the young produced by the rest of the family. It turns out that flamingo chicks raised by two males have a higher survival rate than chicks raised by a pair of opposite-sex birds. According to Joan Roughgarden, a professor of biology at Stanford University and author of the book Evolution's Rainbow, gayness in animals is complex and cannot be explained or discounted by the simplistic concepts we have historically used to think about sexuality. She notes that gay animals are far more common in species that live in complex social groups. There must therefore be a benefit to the group at large when a percentage of its population is gay. And the benefit clearly goes well beyond the need for well-groomed social males. According to the keepers at the New York Aquarium, Wendell and Cass are just as messy as the straight male penguins they care for.
So there you have it. Being gay is as natural as nature can be. The same is true for being trans. There are, after all, intersex animals of every species, even plants. There are even animals who can impregnate themselves, and some that can change their sex during their lives. To the Magaverse, here's a clue. Science is real. Facts matter. And the fact that you are incapable of putting actual reality into the tiny little boxes that you've created in your minds doesn't change any of those facts. And no attempt to make it fit into your narrow little minds will ever do anything other than prove your own ignorance. In other words, we effing told you so. You have been listening to the We Effing Told You So podcast. Please like and subscribe and share on your social media. You can also find us on Blue Sky, Substack, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and many other podcast apps.